Whenever I come across one of those put a check by your ethnicity boxes, without missing a beat, I mark Asian or Pacific Islander. But what does that even mean? It's amazing how one little mark of a pen can say so much about you, and yet so little at the same time. I'm a second-generation Vietnamese American. My parents were among the hundreds of thousands of refugees that fled to America after the Vietnam War in 1975. It's hard for them to put into words the physical and emotional hardships they faced, but when they tell me about it, I can see it in their eyes. They were forced to leave their families and completely start their lives over in a country that was alien to them. They were forced to call this place their home even though everything they encountered was unfamiliar. Being raised by Vietnamese parents meant different rules. No sleepovers, bowing and formally greeting every elder that walked into the room. We didn't even know what being grounded meant. Instead, if we did something bad, we'd have a red mark on our bum for the rest of the day. All the other kids at school bragged about getting money for their good grades. When I mentioned this to my parents, they laughed. Good grades weren't an option, they were an expectation. While all of our friends spent Saturday mornings watching cartoons, we woke up early to drive to the other side of town to take Vietnamese lessons. When I was young, I despised all of these restrictions, but now I get it. My parents were grasping onto the culture they were forced to leave behind in 1975. For my parents, moving to America didn't mean forgetting their past. Growing up in America as a Vietnamese person, identity has always been an iffy subject for me. Even though we acted, dressed, and talked the exact same way, to Americans I was always the Asian girl. But to other Vietnamese kids, I was always considered whitewashed. It took me a while, but I finally realized that standing out isn't a bad thing. I often ask myself, what makes me a Vietnamese American? Only recently have I discovered the answer to this question, which is that there is no answer. There isn't one thing that makes me Vietnamese American. It's everything. It's the fiber of my being, the core of my soul, it's everything I'm made of. All influenced by the way I was raised by two courageous and inspirational Vietnamese refugees who sacrificed everything they had for me and my brothers. I regret taking my heritage for granted when I was younger. However, I believe that you have to make mistakes in order to fix them, and that is one mistake that I'll never make again. I'm made up of two vibrant and stimulating cultures, and without each of these parts, I wouldn't be the person I am today. I am fortunate enough to live in America, and on top of that, I'm a phone call away from the best pho in the world. A wise man once said, "A man without history is like a tree without roots." Being a second-generation American just means that my roots are a little farther away than most people. Whatever age, race, or gender you are, your family has a history, and it's up to you to discover it before it's too late.